After being thrown into an ABO universe, I ended up picking up the future villain. Bad news? One day he'd kill me. Good news? Right now, he was still a kid, and I had a shot at redeeming him with love. So I began brainwashing him, gently and persistently, trying to make him fall in love with this not-so-wonderful world. After years of effort, he finally grew up to be a powerful and optimistic CO, full of passion for life. I, on the other hand, was ready to retire in peace, living comfortably off the generous, filial support he gave me. I had just bought my plane ticket, only to be locked in a dark room the very next second. The grown-up villain now stood in front of me, chains in hand, measuring them against my ankle. My temper flared. "You lied to me all along." "If I didn't act like a good boy," he replied lazily, "how else was I supposed to figure out that you were planning to run away from me?" Welcome to He History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. Are you out of your mind? He's a grown alpha now. So what if he's still in high school? If he really wanted to do something to you, you wouldn't be able to resist at all. Do you understand that? I rubbed the hem of my shirt nervously. Honestly? Not really. Bruck Howard didn't know the truth. I wasn't the original Stan Warner. 7 years ago, I transmigrated into this ABO novel world. It had taken me a long time to come to terms with the fact that I had become a beta. But one thing I still hadn't quite grasped was the real difference between alphas, betas, and omegas. After all, I'd had very little contact with any of them. And Bruck Howard, he was a very strong omega. Not at all like the stereotype people had in mind. So I still had no clear sense of who was stronger, alphas or omegas. But I'm just a beta, I muttered. Bruck glared at me like I was hopeless. During an alpha's rut, do you think anyone cares whether you're a beta? Fair point. I glanced back at the alpha sitting on the couch, still in his school uniform. He didn't look like someone who'd do anything crazy. But he's someone I used to know when we were kids. He doesn't have anywhere to go now. I can't just. Bruck sighed. Then send him to stay with me. My eyes widened. Are you nuts? You're an omega. He rolled his eyes. Am I a regular omega? Compared to you, I probably have a better shot at keeping him in line. I shook my head firmly. No way I'd drag my friend into this. After all, this was my mess to handle. And Bruck didn't know, Roland Wayne wasn't just some ordinary alpha. He was the villain of this novel. And I was just the unfortunate beta who was destined to become collateral damage on his rise to power. Because I had some vague connection to the protagonist, Roland had seen me as untrustworthy. So when trouble struck his company, I was the first person he suspected. Of course, the original Stan didn't help himself either. After witnessing Roland's violent tendencies firsthand, he got scared. With a little manipulation from the protagonist, he betrayed Roland. And once Roland found out, he dumped Stan back into his old rundown apartment. After living a cushy life with Roland, the original Stan couldn't handle the hardship. In the end, he brought about his own death. As for me, once I came into this world, I hadn't tried to cozy up to Roland or side with the protagonist. I just wanted to stay far away from all of them. But fate had other ideas. And somehow, Roland Wayne still ended up right beside me. Anyway, don't worry, I said breezily. He's not the type to do anything out of line. And besides, he's way out of my league. I pushed Bruck gently toward the door. Didn't you say you had something going on at the bar tonight? Go deal with that. I'll handle the rest myself. Bruck finally relented. Stan Warner, stop selling yourself short. So what if you're a beta? You're still a damn good-looking one, all right? Do you know how many people ask about you every time you show up at my bar? I flushed, embarrassed. Especially since we weren't alone. I wasn't that narcissistic. Okay, I get it. I'll be careful. I managed to usher Bruck out the door, half pushing, half dragging him. When the door finally clicked shut, I let out a breath of relief, only to turn around and meet Roland Wayne's gaze. You're really popular now, huh? His tone was mild, but there was something dark and unsettling beneath it. I gave a sheepish smile. And no, that's just Bruck Howard talking nonsense. He's still in high school, right? But Roland ignored my question entirely. Instead, he picked up right where Brooke and I had left off. Does Brooke Howard hate me or something? He doesn't want you around me, right? But I'm not a bad person. Sure, you're not a bad guy at all. You're just the kind of villain who'll do every bad thing imaginable in the future. He's just cautious, I said. Don't overthink it. He only said that because he cares about me. Roland fell silent. He looked just like a kid who'd been scolded and had no one to back him up. I sighed. Was the villain always this innocent as a child? All right. He just doesn't understand you like I do. I know you're not a bad kid. Now go take a shower. It's getting late. You should get some sleep. Roland Wayne nodded obediently. But it quickly became clear he hadn't brought any clothes. Just one small bag. That was it. So I rummaged through my closet and dug out some oversized clothes I'd bought by mistake. Even found him a set of undergarments. But in the end, he didn't wear them. Now he stood before me, holding the small piece of fabric in his hand, awkward and a little shy. It's too small. I can't get it on. My face flushed in an instant. Oh, so he's that big? So what if he is? Is that something to brag about? I'll buy you some new ones tomorrow then, I mumbled. He smiled, soft and grateful. Thanks, Stan. After I finished changing the sheets in the bedroom for him, I was just about to head out, only to find Roland blocking the doorway. He stood there, taking up the entire space. Broad shoulders, straight posture. I couldn't even squeeze past. Where are you going? He asked. Wasn't it obvious? I'm going to sleep on the couch. You can take the bed. But he didn't move. In fact, he took 2 steps forward. Now he was directly in front of me. I had to tilt my head up just to look at him. He was already this tall at 18? What was he going to be in a few years? 2 meters. Were all alphas built like this? You're sleeping on the couch, because of me? He asked quietly. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a beta. We're not kids anymore. We should at least avoid any appearance of impropriety. Then I'll sleep on the couch. No, it's way too small for you. You'd barely be able to stretch your legs. But thinking about you sleeping out there because of me, it bothers me. Can't we just sleep together? And maybe it was my imagination, but suddenly I caught the faint scent of tea in the air. Delicate, unfamiliar. Definitely not from my place. But what? His voice dipped low. You're worried I'll do something bad to you in your sleep? That wasn't it. I was just honestly scared to share a bed with him. What if he snapped in the middle of the night and did something crazy? Sure, the original Stan met his end largely because of his own bad decisions. But part of it stemmed from crossing paths with Roland Wayne in the first place. If he hadn't met Roland, maybe he would have lived a peaceful, average life. So, no way. You're not into me. My bed's small. It'd be way too cramped for 2 people. You should sleep alone. With that, I slipped past him nimbly, grabbed my clothes, and made a beeline for the bathroom. This was too much. What was even going on anymore? Thankfully, by the time I got out, Roland was already in bed. He didn't say anything about sharing. I mean, we weren't kids anymore. What adult sleeps in the same bed with someone like that? So just like that, Roland Wayne began living at my place. I never asked him why. I already knew. His relationship with his family was a mess. His mother had kicked him out. But it wasn't like he didn't have money. He could have easily gotten his own place. Still, he chose to come here. To me. Maybe it was fate. That kind of twisted, unavoidable fate I couldn't escape. You bought another bed? I stared at the 2 beds now lined up side by side in the bedroom. Like a hotel double room. You've been sleeping on the couch. I didn't want that, he said simply. And you clearly don't want to share a bed. So I got another one. Fine. Rich people and their whims. But to be fair, my back had been killing me from the couch lately. Only an idiot refuses free comfort. So, just like that, I moved back into my bedroom. Now with a roommate. It was just one more person in the room. No big deal. Besides, Roland was a quiet sleeper. Didn't move. Didn't snore. Didn't even make a sound. It almost felt like I was still alone. Something about it felt off. Every night after I drifted off, I'd feel this creeping sense, like someone was watching me. Like invisible eyes were boring into me in the dark. Yet every time I stirred and opened my eyes, there was nothing. I told myself it was the stress from work. Too much on my plate. Deadlines, reports, pressure. What else could it be? Surely it couldn't be Roland Wayne staying up at night, staring at me while I slept, right? I'm telling you, that kid's no good. No alpha is. I lifted my wine glass and swirled the liquid. The color shimmered in the light, somehow calming. You're being dramatic. Not all alphas are like that. Bruck Howard leaned closer. Sure, not all alphas are evil. But you're alpha? I don't buy it. I took a sharp breath. Was it just that Bruck had a personal grudge against Roland? Or did he actually see something I hadn't? Honestly, he wasn't wrong. I just couldn't admit it. I couldn't tell anyone the truth about Roland Wayne. Alright, fine, I said. But seriously, say stuff like that only to me, not to his face. Bruck Howard rolled his eyes as he waved off yet another alpha who'd come up to ask for his number. Be honest with me, how long are you planning to keep supporting him? I gave a weak little laugh, already feeling guilty. Don't give me that look. You told me before you'd take care of him until college entrance exams were over. Well, newsflash, they're over. Wait, already? Had time flown by that quickly? Turned out it had been more than half a year. He's graduated, Bruck continued. He got into university. He's already started classes. So why's he still living at your place? I scratched at my fingers instinctively. The dull pain reminded me of a certain moment just a few days ago. Roland warning me not to pick at hangnails, tending to the torn skin himself with quiet care. I stopped immediately. He applied to be a day student. So, he says he can't get used to dorm life. If I don't let him stay, he's got nowhere else. Bruck jabbed a finger at my forehead. Are you stupid? He's obviously clinging to you. I hesitated, voice low. What? It's not like I'm suffering. He's been paying for everything these past months. I remembered clearly how Roland had shoved his card into my hand, like a domineering CEO spoiling his sugar baby. He's got money? Bruck's eyebrows shot up. Yeah. A lot of it. Bruck frowned, gaze sharpening. I used to think he saw you as a father figure. Now I think, maybe he wants to make you his wife. My eyes went wide. What? That's insane. But you've got the looks for it. No way. That's not even remotely possible. After all, in this world's original plot, Roland was supposed to fall for the story's male lead, the protagonist. He wasn't supposed to like me. I was just the big brother in his eyes. Nothing more. Definitely nothing romantic. Believe whatever you want, Bruck said. Before I could reply, my phone started ringing. I glanced at the caller ID, face paling. I have to go, I told Bruck in a rush, already moving for the exit. It was the police. Roland had gotten into a fight, and had been arrested. Just couldn't let me catch a break, could he? But in the end, I wasn't the one who bailed him out. By the time I arrived at the station, Mrs. Wayne had already taken him out. For a brief moment watching her, I felt hopeful. Maybe she hadn't truly given up on him. Maybe there was still some hope for their relationship to mend. But my optimism shattered 2 seconds later. Right in front of everyone, Mrs. Wayne slapped her son across the face. Roland didn't even flinch. Didn't try to dodge. The blow was loud. Brutal. The sharp sound echoed in the cold air as his face jerked sideways, red swelling blooming fast across his cheek. Didn't I tell you not to make trouble? She snapped. Was the money I gave you not enough? Or do you think pulling this kind of pathetic stunt would actually earn my attention? What kind of mother says that? As she raised her hand for another strike, I stepped forward and blocked her. That's enough. Hitting someone is illegal. He's my son. Still illegal. A small crowd was gathering. Mrs. Wayne gave me one final glare and turned to leave. I quickly helped Roland through the crowd and into a taxi. As I leaned in to fasten his seatbelt, his hand grabbed mine mid-motion. His eyes met mine, hurt, disappointed. Why didn't you come sooner? He asked quietly. I gave the cops your number. I waited. Why did you let her take me first? Did you want to watch? I flinched. Then my fingers brushed his. I recoiled like I'd touched a live wire. But when I saw the raw ache in his eyes, I forced myself not to pull away. Do you hate me now too? He looked so small, so lost, like a puppy left out in the rain. I couldn't help but hate myself for hesitating back at the station. Because, truthfully, I had waited. For a second I thought maybe his mother still cared. Maybe all he needed was a bit of family support. I didn't expect her to humiliate him like that. I'm sorry, I murmured. It won't happen again. Back home, I helped him tend to his bruises. Didn't ask why he fought. Didn't need to. He must have had his reasons. But after that day, something shifted. Roland got clingier. If he wasn't in class, he was home. No friends. No clubs. No activities. It was starting to get weird. You don't like having me around, do you? He said one evening. I can stop coming back if that's what you want. I froze. Was that really what I meant? No, I said quickly. I didn't mean it like that. I just think you should hang out with your classmates more. They're your age. It might be good for you. I don't want to. Okay then. I guess villains come with their own temperaments. So I didn't press the issue. If I pushed, he'd just resist harder. Besides, it's not like I'd been any better at socializing back in school. Maybe he was just like me. Roland's expression softened. Like a puppy getting praise, he rubbed his head against my shoulder, eyes bright with joy. I knew it, you're the best. You'd never look down on me, right? Yeah. I wouldn't. I thought I'd never cross paths with the male lead of the original story. After all, I was going out of my way to avoid him. But fate had other plans. It spun me right into his path. It happened on my day off. I noticed Roland had forgotten one of his books. It wouldn't be the end of the world if he showed up to class without it. But maybe a part of me just wanted to experience a bit of that school life nostalgia. So I texted him, grabbed the book, and headed toward his campus. I didn't even make it to the classroom before I ran into someone. An alpha, almost as handsome as Roland, maybe just a fraction less. But he carried himself with this suffocating arrogance that made my skin crawl. This was the protagonist alpha? Seriously? So you're Stan Warner? The guy taking care of that loser Roland? Great. My opinion of him nosedived immediately. What kind of creep opens a conversation like that? What's it to you? I snapped. And who the hell are you calling a loser? What? You heard me. You're the loser. Want me to say it again? His face darkened like a storm rolling in. Clearly not used to being talked to like this. Probably spent his whole life being pampered and worshipped. I won't stoop to argue with some plain, average beta like you. But I'll say this, stay away from Roland Wayne. You don't want to end up stabbed in the back, crying to no one. Good. You're the reason people's lives spiral into chaos. He was the one who coaxed the original Stan into betraying Roland. He was the one who stood back and watched it all burn. And? I said, didn't you hear what I just said? Loud and clear. My ears work fine. So does my brain. Then why? I took 2 steps back, not wanting him to get too close. In the ABO world, scent was everything. Even after nearly 8 years here, I still didn't fully understand it. But keeping a respectful distance felt like a safe rule. So what? I asked. You think saying all this is going to mess with my head? Look, just because you've got issues with Roland doesn't mean you can show up and expect me to turn on him too. His expression twisted with confusion and annoyance. I didn't have the patience for it. The longer we talked, the more chance Roland had to misread the situation. And I knew how much he despised this guy. If that's all you've got to say, I'm leaving. I turned to go, but then he grabbed my arm. You're going to regret this. I yanked my arm free. I won't. Then I rushed up the stairs. Honestly, part of me wanted to find a nearby Alpha or Omega and ask if I smelled weird. Like, was there some sort of leftover scent clinging to me? But the idea of walking up to someone and asking that? I'd sound like a complete creep. So I left it. By the time I reached Roland's classroom, the bell was about to ring. I handed him the book and gave a polite nod to his friends before turning to go. Did you run into anyone on the way here? Roland asked suddenly. I blinked. Without thinking, I lied. Nope. Oh. Okay. Weird. Did I really smell like something? The bell rang, and I made my exit with the rest of the students. Back home, I pulled out the novel again. The one that documented everything about this world. The source of all my knowledge. And that's when I understood why the protagonist Alpha hated Roland so much. Turns out, they were half-brothers. Same father. Different mothers. Roland's mom hadn't exactly taken the moral high ground in the family history. She'd been the mistress, his father's side fling before the protagonist's mother had even passed. Being the child of the other woman wasn't exactly a badge of honor. And though she did become the rich wife eventually, Roland was always the stain on that story. The unwanted son. Discarded by both his parents. No wonder. No wonder he had money, but no family. I closed the book, heart heavy. Maybe it was time I told Roland about my run-in with the protagonist Alpha. He deserved to know. At the very least, he should be warned. Warned about what the protagonist Alpha might try to do to him. It was nearly dinner time when Roland Wayne came home. But, uncharacteristically, he didn't greet me like he usually did. He just quietly slipped into the bedroom and shut the door behind him. I figured he might not be feeling well, so I didn't go bother him. But when dinner was ready and I called for him to eat, there was still no response. Roland? Roland, dinner's ready. What's going on with you today? I knocked. Twice. Again and again. Still nothing. By the time my knuckles were sore, the door finally opened, and a hand reached out and yanked me inside. I stumbled and landed squarely in someone's lap. More specifically, in his lap. Roland Wayne's body radiated heat. Scorching, like touching a fevered furnace. Panic surged through me. Are you sick? He didn't answer. Instead, he buried his face against my neck, breathing me in. Once, twice, again. Then suddenly, as if repulsed by something, he pulled back slightly. I'm not sick, he muttered. It's my rut. Rut? The term barely had time to register in my brain. Before he suddenly pulled me tightly into his chest. His nose nudged along the back of my neck, slow and deliberate. You've been bad, he murmured, voice low. Your body reeks of that disgusting man. His hand slid up my back, fingers brushing the nape of my neck. So tell me, how should I punish you, huh? I hadn't realized it before. But that one tug from the protagonist Alpha earlier really had left a scent on me. I hadn't felt it at all. But Roland clearly could. No wonder. That little stunt, reaching out to grab me like that, was entirely deliberate. He'd known I was on my way to Roland. He'd wanted to sabotage me. That snake. How could someone like that be the protagonist? Someone so manipulative, so two-faced? I was still fuming when Roland's hand tightened at my waist, pinching the sensitive spot just above my hip. Of all the places he had to grab there, it was my most ticklish, most sensitive area. Even I avoided touching it. I gasped involuntarily, sucking in a sharp breath. What are you thinking about, huh? He asked. Trying to come up with a story to lie to me? I shook my head, overwhelmed. I tried to pull his hand away, but he caught mine, intertwining our fingers like we were lovers. I'm not lying. I can explain, I said quickly. Oh, I'm listening. I leaned back slightly, trying to put some distance between us. His body heat was overwhelming, fogging up my brain. How could anyone run this hot? It's true I ran into someone today, I began. He asked me if I was looking for you, so I stopped. But then he started bad-mouthing you, and I walked away. As for the scent, he suddenly reached out and grabbed me. That's the only reason it stuck. I didn't let it happen on purpose. I didn't even know if this explanation made sense. But it was the truth. That's the thing, I added. I'm a beta. I can't smell pheromones like you guys do. I didn't even know I was carrying someone else's scent. If he hadn't said anything, I still wouldn't have known. I licked my lips nervously. I can wash it off. Would a shower help? Roland didn't answer. And the room was dark. I couldn't even see his face. That scared me. The unknown always does. Was he really trying to punish me? Or was he enjoying watching me squirm? He just sat there, silent and still, like a predator observing his prey. Watching me struggle. waiting to see what I'd do to survive. He was terrifying, and yet, for the first time, he felt like a true villain. Until now, he'd always seemed oddly sweet, even easygoing at times. "Do you believe me?" I asked carefully. "Believe what?" "That guy. He said a lot of awful things about you. But I didn't believe any of it. I know what kind of person you are." Roland's chest jerked slightly, like he was holding back a laugh. Then he gave my waist a playful pat, right at the spot where my back met my hips. Was it my waist? Was it my butt? I wasn't sure. Either way, I didn't get the chance to blush or protest. Because right after that, he said, "Do me a favor and grab my suppressant, would you? Otherwise, I'm seriously going to combust." Suppressants. So it really was his rut. I'd heard about alpha ruts and omega heats before. How miserable and overwhelming they could be. But that was just hearsay. I'd never actually seen it for myself. Even Bruck Howard, despite being an omega and my friend, never once let me see him during his heat. He always said he didn't want me to witness him losing control to pheromones. Said it was disgusting. Why it was disgusting, he never explained. And as a beta with boundaries, I never asked. But now, watching Roland wane, he didn't seem like the kind of alpha I'd imagined. Aside from the spike in body temperature and the pain flickering across his face, he still looked composed, in control. He was still himself. I fetched the suppressant from his drawer and watched as he calmly administered the shot. Within moments, his breathing slowed. His tense shoulders relaxed. He stood up, gathered the used packaging, and crossed the room to open the window. "It's going to rain tonight," I said. "You should close that." But he didn't listen. He glanced over his shoulder at me, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Can you really not smell it, Hyung?" he asked softly. "The whole room, and even you, reek of me. If we don't air it out, you'll go to work tomorrow soaked in my scent." His gaze drifted slowly over my body. That smug little grin deepened. "Aren't you worried about how your coworkers will look at you?" Later, I sat at the dining table, listening to the sounds of water running from the shower. Worried? I hadn't really thought about it before. I leaned over and sniffed myself. Nothing. Just the faint tea fragrance from Roland's new body wash. No trace of anything else. "So, what does your scent actually smell like?" I asked when he emerged from the bathroom. "Is there something in real life it's similar to?" By then, he was back to his usual self. No trace of the alpha on the verge of losing control just moments ago. He looked at me, amusement dancing in his eyes. "Do you realize," he said slowly, "that what you just asked is basically the same as asking someone their size?" That explicit? And here I'd been worried about the protagonist alpha deliberately releasing his pheromones around me. Guess that guy really was shameless. "It's that personal?" I asked. He nodded. "Very. So don't ask that kind of thing casually. And don't let others leave their scent on you so easily either." I shrugged helplessly. "But I'm a beta. I can't even smell pheromones. Even if someone leaves their scent, I wouldn't know." Something shifted in Roland's gaze. That teasing warmth morphed into something darker. Possessive. Intense. "It's fine," he said. "I'll smell it for you." I wanted to say, even if you can smell it, we can't be together every second of every day. Soon he'd start building his career. He'd be busy with real responsibilities. Eventually, he'd move out of this shabby apartment. And maybe he'd never come back. That thought, it made my chest ache. But I shook it off quickly. So what if he moved on? As long as he did well in life, I wouldn't end up like the original Stan. I hadn't betrayed him. When he became rich, he might even support me out of gratitude. And maybe I'd never have to work again. How great would that be? "So, you're saying you walked in on his rut?" "Yeah," I told Bruck over the phone. "Honestly, I don't think ruts are as terrifying as you always make them out to be. Roland handled it fine. He didn't do anything to me." Bruck squinted at me through the video call. More specifically, at my neck. "That mark on your neck. You're telling me that's nothing?" "Huh." I instinctively touched the side of my neck. "Wait, what was on my—" "Oh, that? Probably just an accident. He really didn't do anything." "Fine, Fine, Brooke sighed. Keep babying him like that. People who don't know better might think you're his real brother. I sipped my drink. Honestly, I hadn't expected things to end up like this between us. It was weird, but not necessarily in a bad way. Well, Brooke continued, since he's hit his rut, maybe it's time he found his omega. You should suggest it to him. His omega? Yeah. Alphas can ride out their ruts with an omega's pheromones. And let's face it, he's going to need one eventually. Might as well meet someone now while he's still in school. Could even help get him out of your place. I mulled it over. Kind of made sense. If Roland could find someone he truly liked before meeting the story's protagonist show, then maybe none of that mess would happen. Maybe he'd never fall for the protagonist. And maybe, just maybe, he'd avoid clashing with the male lead altogether. That actually sounded like a good idea. You're right, I told Brooke. I'll talk to him when I get home. Brooke blinked, then gave me a knowing smile. Go on then. Good luck. I wasn't sure what that smile meant, but I was determined. This could be the key to changing Roland Wayne's fate. Yes, this was the turning point. I went home early that day, sat on the couch and waited for him. You're home early today? Roland said as he stepped through the door. Yeah. He walked over like he always did, sat beside me, and leaned against my shoulder. Even though he was already a head taller than me, he still liked to lean on me like a kid. Been drinking? Or did you stop by Brooke's bar again? Yeah, had a drink on the way back. If you want to drink next time, he said, just tell me. Why would I do that? You know how to mix drinks. If you want me to, I'll learn. Whoever ends up marrying him one day, they're going to be very lucky. Roland, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. Go ahead, young. Well, you're grown now and, well, you've reached that age. That rut you had, it looked painful. Have you ever thought about getting an omega boyfriend? The living room went silent. Uncomfortably silent. My heart dropped. I'd said the wrong thing. Sure enough, Roland pulled away from me. No more leaning. No more warmth. You're doing it again, he said, voice tight. You're trying to get rid of me. Am I that much of a burden to you? Do you really not want me around that badly? God, no. That's not what I meant. I'm saying if you don't have omega pheromones around you, ruts will only get harder. Even if I'm a beta, I understand that much. His face fell, eyes full of hurt. It's okay, Hyung. You don't have to explain. I get it. No, you don't get it. That's not what I meant. Forget it. If you don't want to find someone, you don't have to. The conversation was a disaster. But Roland eventually came over, trying to soothe the tension. I'm not saying I won't find someone. I just don't want to deal with romance right now. I'm still young. It's just a rut. I can handle it. Don't be mad, okay? I'm not mad, I muttered. He was all about ambition now. That was a good thing. If he was focused on building his career, then he'd have no time for messy emotions. That worked for me. As long as it kept him away from the protagonist show. Different path, same result. And let's face it, he was still starting from scratch. The male lead had a powerful family backing him. If they ended up competing, it wouldn't even be a fair fight. So yeah, career first. That night, I lay in bed and glanced at Roland, who was already asleep across the room. I said nothing. Just because the male lead was destined, did that mean everyone who opposed him was automatically a villain? So, was I a villain now too? Was it really that simple to be labeled one? Roland wasn't a bad person. He was just someone who challenged the protagonist. Someone who happened to fall for the same omega. That made him the villain? Even though life had been so cruel to him already? Even though he'd finally started to believe in the goodness of this world? Forget it. All that mattered was getting him strong enough. Strong enough to stand against the male lead. And once he had that, he'd be okay. That's right. So for a long time after that, I had to do two things at once. 1. Guard against the male lead's sneaky tricks. 2. Make sure Roland didn't suddenly go off the rails. That would have ruined everything I worked for. Since the moment he showed up at my doorstep, I'd been slowly, deliberately feeding him optimism. Showing him the good in this world. And I think it was working. He seemed to be listening, even if only a little. I couldn't let anyone mess that up. But maybe the heavens were on our side. Or maybe they just pitted Roland. After that, things actually went pretty well. He and a few classmates started a small studio. Step by step it grew. Of course, that meant money was tight for a while. Every cent went into the business. Our life got a little rough. But honestly, I was used to it. Before he came, that had always been my life. Nothing new. Still, Roland was capable. It didn't take long before the studio started making money. Our quality of life improved. Though we still lived in that tiny apartment. The one that could barely fit 2 twin beds. The only difference? He bought the place. I didn't have to pay rent anymore. Personally, I thought the money could have gone toward a bigger place. But since he never brought it up, I didn't either. Maybe neither of us wanted to move. Maybe he couldn't let go. Or maybe I couldn't. As for the male lead, he pretty much disappeared from our lives. It was as if he'd vanished from our world entirely. Of course, I wasn't about to ask Roland Wayne about him. Honestly, it was better this way. Roland's career had been rising so fast it bordered on absurd. No wonder he had the makings of a villain. Anyone with less drive would have never made it this far. If Roland Wayne had been the protagonist instead of the antagonist, the real villain wouldn't have lasted past chapter 3. As for me, I'd come into quite a bit of money. Mostly because Roland never bothered to take back his bank card. All his earnings were funneled into that account. The one he left with me. I tried giving it back. Really I did. But every time I brought it up, he got visibly upset. It was bizarre. I was returning his money, not stealing it, so why get so mad? Still, since he wouldn't take it back, I couldn't exactly toss a fortune in the trash. So I just kept it. And so, the years passed. Roland graduated. The little studio he started with classmates turned into a full-fledged company. So successful that it went public the same year he graduated. And he never became what the novel said he would. He didn't turn cruel or volatile. Didn't lash out at subordinates or thrive on violence. No, the Roland Wayne I knew wasn't exactly gentle, but he was a normal person. Grounded. Human. I must have changed something. That thought made me feel weirdly proud. But now I was left wondering, what do I do next? At the beginning, my only goal had been simple. Help him grow into a better person so I could stay alive. He had changed. I was still alive. So what now? Was I supposed to just sit by and watch Roland Wayne marry someone? Start a family? That didn't sit right with me. I didn't know why, but the thought of him bringing an Omega home, introducing them with a bright smile, calling me Hyung, just like he did, it bothered me. And what then? Was I going to stay by his side forever? Let him support me into old age? I wasn't that shameless. A little comfort was fine, but not everything should go my way. I heard you're thinking of leaving? Not leaving, I told Bruck Howard. Just taking a short break. He was still at the bar, mixing one of his rare, highly sought-after cocktails. Roland going to let you go? I frowned. Why wouldn't he? He's so busy these days, always working late. Bruck put down the shaker and leaned across the counter to look at me. You really don't know, huh? Know what? That Roland's in love with you. My eyes widened. What? Don't be ridiculous. Bruck let out a dry chuckle. All these years, every time I get near you, even a little too close, he looks like he's ready to murder me. And you never noticed? I honestly hadn't. Never. Stan, have you ever been in a relationship? I shook my head honestly. Nope. Back in my original world, I'd barely had time to start dating. Before fate threw me into this one. And once I got here, my days were spent adjusting to an entirely foreign reality. Pretending to be someone else. Avoiding suspicion. Just surviving was exhausting enough. Romance? Not even on the radar. Then came the job. Then came Roland. There hadn't been space in my life for anything else. Now that I thought about it, I was still single. Tragically single. But that wasn't the point. You're saying Roland likes me? Like that? Bruck smirked. Why are you asking me? You spend the most time with him. You seriously never noticed the way he looks at you? Had I? I honestly couldn't tell. Maybe it was because I never treated him like someone who could be a romantic option. At first, I assumed he'd fall for the story's Omega lead. Naturally, I never let my thoughts wander in that direction. Now that he hadn't fallen for the protagonist, I just wanted him to find a normal Omega, build a quiet life. And now Brock was telling me he might like me? That turned everything upside down. Well, Brock said, picking up another glass. Figure it out, because your boy isn't someone you can just walk away from. If you even show the slightest sign of trying to leave, he might just lock you up. I shook my head, laughing. No way. He wouldn't do that. You really believe that? Brock gave me a look. Fine. If he does, just text me. I'll come bust you out. We've been friends too long for me to let you rot in a luxury cage. I gave a dry laugh, then paused. Would he really? That couldn't happen. Still, I needed to think things through. I drained my glass, said goodbye, and stepped out into the street, only to run right into Roland Wayne. He was wearing a sleek black suit, jacket slung casually over his arm. Just standing there, he drew every Omega's eyes. And yet, his gaze was fixed solely on me. He looked far more like a grown-up than I ever did. I glanced down at the hoodie I was wearing and, for the first time in a long while, felt a little embarrassed. Why was I still dressing like a kid? Like I'd never really grown up at all? What are you doing here? I asked. Did your company let you off early today? Roland Wayne stepped closer, leaned down, and sniffed at me. It took me 1 second to realize what he was doing. I only had one drink, I said immediately. Not much. Only then did he straighten up, though the look on his face was far from pleased. You went out drinking again without telling me. Didn't I say you could have anything you want from the liquor cabinet at home? I gave a sheepish smile. Truth was, I didn't come for the alcohol. I came to see Brock Howard. All right. Next time, I'll tell you before I go. That seemed to soften him a little. He finally relaxed his brows and led me to the car. Is Brock still single? I think so. I haven't seen any alphas around him. Why? Roland had never cared much about other people's business. But over the past few years, he'd occasionally bring up Brock's personal life in the most casual of ways. Could it be? I know a few decent alphas, he said. If Brock's interested, I could introduce him to someone, older, younger, whatever type he wants. He wanted to set Brock up. I waved him off. Nah, don't worry about it. He's into falling in love naturally. When he meets someone he likes, he'll date. I see. Then maybe you shouldn't visit him so often. Why not? You might be scaring off his chances. What? But I was just a beta. The rest of the ride was quiet. I was thinking about what Brock had said. What Roland was thinking, I had no idea. These past few years, even though we'd shared the same bedroom, the same space, Roland had never crossed a line. Aside from the occasional hug during his rut, it had all felt familial, normal. I couldn't see any signs that he had feelings for me. Had I just been that oblivious? I didn't figure it out. Instead, I went home with Roland and returned to our usual, uneventful routine. Still, a strange unease had settled in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed time. Alone. Not forever. Just for a while. Time to think clearly, to figure things out. But I couldn't tell Roland. It wasn't that I wanted to lie to him. It's just, if I told him, he'd either refuse to let me go, or insist on coming with me. That might have been fine before, but now he was the CEO of a publicly traded company. He couldn't just take off on a whim. And who knew how long I'd be gone? So no, I had to go quietly. I'd message him after I left. Surely he'd understand. I picked a quiet place for a getaway. Somewhere peaceful. Didn't even tell Brock, in case Roland thought to check with him. If Roland showed up at Brock's bar, Brock would never spill my location. But Roland might do something unpredictable. To keep Brock safe, I told no one. I planned everything in secret, convinced I could pull it off flawlessly. But I forgot something important. Roland Wayne, the man he'd become, wasn't the same boy who once slept beside me with puppy-like dependence. So when I quietly purchased my plane ticket during the day, Roland, somewhere I couldn't see, received the confirmation in real time. You're leaving? Not really leaving, I said, squatting down to zip my suitcase. I'm just going away for a bit. If Roland asks, just tell him I went on a trip. You don't know where. Simple. I told Brooke the night before, just in case. Are you serious? You're not scared Roland's going to go nuts? I was already at the door, suitcase in hand. He won't. He's a calm, mature adult now. Brooke let out a short, amused laugh. Now I get why parents are always so blindly confident in their kids. Oh, come on, I muttered. I've got a plane to catch. Just don't pick a fight with him if he comes asking, okay? Got it? Good luck. I hummed an acknowledgement and hung up. Hopefully this trip would help me sort everything out. But of course, reality had other plans. I didn't even make it out of the building. The elevator doors slid open, and there he was, Roland Wayne, standing inside. He didn't look angry, didn't glare. He even smiled, which somehow was 1,000 times more terrifying. Weren't you supposed to have a business dinner tonight? I stammered. Roland stepped out of the elevator, slowly closing the distance. I backed away reflexively until my back hit the cold wall behind me. You checked my schedule, he said. Bought a ticket in secret. Packed your bag. Even told Brooke you were leaving. But not me. His voice was still soft, and that made it so much worse. I swallowed hard, nerves tightening in my throat. It's not like that. I wasn't trying to hide it from you. I just thought I needed some time to myself, So you decided to run away, Roland interrupted, his voice calm, too calm. Without saying a word. I opened my mouth to explain further, but the words never made it out. In a flash, the alpha jabbed something into my neck. Everything went black. The last coherent thought I had before losing consciousness was, when the hell did this kid turn out so crooked behind my back? When I came to, that thought only grew louder. A good kid wouldn't drug someone like this, especially not a guardian. My head throbbed. My throat burned with dryness. But otherwise I was mostly okay. Until I opened my eyes and realized I couldn't see a thing. Pitch dark. For a moment, I panicked, thought I'd gone blind. But then I heard it, breathing. Not just mine. And the metallic scrape of a chain being slowly dragged through someone's fingers. Each sound sent a chill through my spine. Roland, I called out carefully. A moment later, a dim bedside lamp flickered on, illuminating only the mattress. You still recognize me, Hyung? Roland asked. He was still wearing the white dress shirt from earlier. But the neat, composed image was gone. He looked disheveled. Messy in a way that was almost beautiful, but no less dangerous. What do you want? I whispered. Roland chuckled. And right in front of me, he picked up one of my ankles, fitting a cold iron shackle against my skin, just to measure it. You said you'd always stay with me, he said softly. And now, just a few years later, you're tired of me already? My whole body tensed. This was the Roland Wayne from the original novel. The one who was obsessive, unhinged, unpredictable. You've got it wrong. I never said I wanted to leave you. I just wanted a little time to think. His grip on my ankle tightened, hard. He yanked me toward him until I was right in front of him, knees scraping against the sheets. A little time? He said, low and bitter. Is that what you told yourself back then too? When we were kids and you vanished without a word. If I hadn't tracked you down, would you have remembered me at all? Shit. That? He still remembered that? I'd thought that part of the past had quietly faded, but here it was, boomeranging right back at me. No, it's not what you think. Roland gave a sharp, breathy laugh. Not what I think. Because everything about what you did says otherwise. His hand was cold. Colder than I remembered. He touched my skin like it was his, like he had the right. His gaze rose, inch by inch, until it met mine. Then he grabbed my face with both hands, squeezing my cheeks. What do I have to do, he whispered, to make you stay with me, forever? Then he kissed me, bit me, right on the lips. My eyes widened in shock. He actually likes me. I was still reeling when I felt his hand drop to my stomach. His fingers slid under my clothes, pushing fabric aside with alarming ease. How about this? He said, voice like silk soaked in gasoline. What if you gave me a baby young? You're so soft-hearted. If we had a child, you wouldn't even think about leaving. My breath caught. Wait, what? Even I, an outsider in this world, knew that betas couldn't get pregnant. No. He looked at me for a long moment, then like a wounded puppy, leaned over and pressed himself against me, just like he used to when he was younger, nuzzling into the crook of my neck, quietly clinging to me like he never wanted to let go. Then, "Can you still stay with me?" he murmured. I let out a long sigh. And in the end, I couldn't help but reach up and ruffle his hair. "As long as you don't mind that I'm just an aging, ordinary beta, then no, I won't leave." Emotions are strange things. Once a spark ignites, you never know what enormous, hidden flame it might have been concealing. And when it bursts into light, there's no way to hide it anymore. "I'd never mind," Roland said. "You're not ordinary at all. You're the best person in the world." After that conversation, his possessiveness flared to new heights. Ever since my failed escape, Roland refused to leave me alone. Even when he had to go to work, he insisted on bringing me with him. Not that I was of any help. I usually just sat in the corner, playing on my phone. Not much different than being at home, honestly. He was still the same on the surface, but also not. Sometimes when he was exhausted from meetings, he'd suddenly burst into the break room, stride up to me, tilt my chin up, and kiss me breathless. Then, like nothing happened, he'd smooth down his clothes, walk out with that same cold professionalism, and leave me blushing and dazed on the couch. Total menace. Certified bastard. It happened multiple times a day. And the worst part? I couldn't even say no. Damn it. His kisses were just too good. To someone like me, single forever and starved of touch, they were practically addictive. Still, not everything went smoothly. One day, I went downstairs just to grab a coffee. And I bumped straight into the protagonist Alpha. Maybe he thought I was dumb, tried to use the idea of helping me escape to turn me against Roland. Too bad for him. I'm not that dumb. But I am slow to react. Before I could reject him properly, Roland had already shown up behind me. The look on the male lead's face made everything clear. He never expected me to say yes. He just wanted Roland to see it. I didn't agree, I blurted quickly. Roland only brushed his fingers gently across my face. "I know," he said. Then he waved for security to drag the guy out. Took my hand and led me straight back upstairs. But I had this sinking feeling. This was the calm before the storm. Sure enough, when work ended, he brought me home quietly. I tried every excuse I could think of to stall the inevitable. He didn't argue. Didn't stop me. Just let me delay and delay until I finally ran out of time. The moment the door clicked shut behind us, he changed. Gone was the polished teeth. What remained was a predator in a suit. He pulled off his tie, wrapped it around my wrists, lifted me onto the cabinet like I weighed nothing, and kissed me until I couldn't breathe. Every time I gasped for air, he pulled back, just for a moment, then leaned in again, drowning me in another kiss. Over and over until my eyes lost focus and I couldn't even form thoughts. He stroked the back of my neck gently, then carried me into the bedroom. His fingers skimmed over my skin like they were setting fires. Somewhere along the way, I noticed a subtle scent in the air. "Roland, is that your pheromone? It smells like..." I was clinging to him, dazed, when I asked. He looked up from my chest, smirking. "You can smell it?" I nodded weakly, shivering. "It's really nice." I wasn't sure if it was my compliment or my tone, but something in him lit up. "Hyung," he whispered, "lift your legs for me." I groaned, laid flat on the bed, exhausted beyond measure. "No way. I can't move anymore. I'm getting old. Have mercy." Roland laughed, leaned in, and kissed me hard. "That's all right. You don't have to move." Alphas really were monsters. Especially young, pent-up ones. He had the stamina of a damn bull. In the end, I blacked out. When I came to, we just changed locations. It wasn't until I begged him, genuinely, seriously begged, that he finally stopped and pulled me into bed to sleep. Roland never forgot a grudge. The male lead disappeared from the city. Never showed his face again. I wasn't the original Stan Warner anymore. At our wedding, the officiant was, of course, Bruck Howard. I told you he'd have you completely wrapped around his finger, Bruck said. And you didn't believe me. Hey, come on, I laughed. It's our big day. Can we not say things that make me want to crawl into a hole and die? Bruck went quiet, because someone caught his eye. An alpha that left him a little flustered, a little stunned. You serious? I asked, raising a brow. Bit of a cougar move, isn't it? That kid looks way younger than you. Bruck just smirked. Says the guy who's not any better. Trust me, I've got this. He left and Roland came over. What were you talking about? He asked. I took his hand, smiled up at him. About me being a cougar. Roland let out a rare laugh. Come on. Time to make the rounds. Raising a husband like this from scratch. What a strange, wonderful feeling. The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.